What's up guys, I'm just walking back from lunch back to my hotel room. It's now 1:30, so we need to leave the hotel in like 30 minutes already. Yeah, about my opponent, he's an international master we're playing against Peru today. I forgot to mention that. He's an international master, rated like 2400 around. I have the black pieces, so I'll try to stay solid and leave it to the white players to score the decisive points, but of course I will try to keep the chances as well, since I'm the favorite. But let's see how the game goes. Today I'm preparing a bit less, since he has quite a narrow repertoire overall, so I can save some energy as well. And yeah, we'll see you after the game. So I just finished my game. I made a draw. Now I'm just waiting on the bus to bring me back to the hotel. I'm not really happy with how the game went. I equalized out of the opening, but then I just missed one tactical idea, which then fortunately I saw before I played the move I intended to. But then my position the plan I chose did not fully work out, and I felt like the game was going in the wrong direction. So I went for the move repetition, which, yeah, from the match situation it's not great, because I think on board 1 we're worse, and board 2 looks like a draw. Also board 4 is not looking very good, so I hope my teammates will save it. But yeah, other than that, I will see you later in the recap. One more quick update guys, I just got back to the hotel. It's now like 7:30 p.m. Things changed in the match, which is good for us because our board 4 is now winning and board 2 should end in a draw, so it will be hopefully most likely 2.5 to 1.5. It was a pretty close match. I hope I'm not ruining anything now, but it looks like this will be the case. So it would be a pretty close match, but obviously winning with 2.5 would still be a good result for the team. And yeah, what else I wanted to mention was that usually after such a comparably short round, I would usually go to the gym, or do some activity at least to get moving. But I don't feel so great. I have like a small cough and runny nose. I think there's some small virus going around in the tournament hall, which is not surprising usually in these tournaments where there are like more than 1,000 of people in one hall. It's quite logical that something will go around. So yeah, I will just take some rest. But I will see you in the recap now. So hi guys, welcome to the chess recap of today's round, and let's have a look at my game. So as I just said, the match is looking pretty good now. I can briefly show you what I was talking about. So on board 2, we see this endgame now. Before that, Dominic was suffering a bit. Dominic has the white pieces. Here he played e5, which surprised me a bit. I just thought that bishop c4 should be quite an easy draw, because if the bishop's exchange is just a clear draw. But e5, I felt like this pawn could be a target. Now bishop g6 is threatening, so king c5, rook d6, now bishop g6 again is threatening. But after rook a3, I felt like it could be a bit unpleasant, because bishop f5 threatens to go into a winning pawn endgame for black. So king f4 was played, and yeah, black now has to try for something due to the team situation. But here Dominic played bishop e4, which is a good move, and I think he calculated that this rook endgame is a draw, because he can just yeah, do this, and if king c3, now he goes rook d7. And this is the position we have currently on the board. And after rook h4, rook f7, the e-pawn is too strong, and yeah, after something like this, I guess rook e4 and everything will just exchange rook g6, rook e7, and it should be a draw. And our last board is now winning. Badetsky is white. He has now is 3 pawns up, and rook d8 is threatening, so this game should finish pretty quickly. So this is looking good. Our board 1 also made a draw, which was now in hindsight for the team was a great result. But now let's have a quick look at my game. So I was black, and my opponent surprised me a bit by going e4. Usually he goes either c4 or d4, but I decided before the game that I would simply stick to my repertoire and go e5. And again, he surprised me a bit by going into the Italian. But I simply went along with my preparation, and this a4 was actually something I checked in the, I think it was for the third round against Gladura. And this has been a bit topical. White just wants to gain space on the queen side. If I go a5, this is also one line, then white usually intends to go something like bishop e3, when white then has this b5 square possibly for the knight, and yeah, white even has the idea to play something like queen e2 and sometimes to go long castle. If black castles short, then something like h3, g4. Also this position is playable, but I had this idea with knight f6 in mind, and after a5, bishop b4 check. By the way, if white would castle short now I would have probably went a5, because now the king has already castled and white doesn't have any more these possible long castle ideas. But he went a5, and now I still recall this idea with bishop b4 check, forcing bishop d2, takes. And the position looks a bit nicer for white, because he has this pawn on a5, but I still remember this important plan for black now to play rook b8, with the idea to push b5 when white is kind of forced to take here on b6. If I would go for something like bishop e6, then white is probably a bit better, just go c3, and I have these doubled pawns now, and also the pawn on a5 can be a bit of a annoying for black here. So rook b8 I think was the right plan. Now c3 and now b5. And if you go something like bishop b3, I thought in the game I could go again this knight e7, knight g6 plan, or also push b4. I thought that both should be pretty okay for me. Also, what I forgot to mention is that the pawn on a5 is now actually more of a weakness than it is a strength in white's camp. So I took on b6, a b6, and the position is now pretty dry, but I still felt pretty comfortable here, because possibly I have the better bishop since white's pawns are fixed on the light squares. He went bishop b5, knight e7, now d4, and here I played c6. Here I spent like 10 minutes, maybe a bit too much. I was thinking about knight g6 first, but here I did not like that he can possibly plant his bishop into c6, when also I felt like this should be okay for me, but yeah, here maybe white has the a file, and it maybe looks a bit better for white, even though I'm probably fine just playing queen c6 and then rook a8. I felt like these structures shouldn't be that big of a problem for me, even though maybe now something like queen e2, queen c4, hitting the pawn on c7. So I wasn't that sure about it, so I just went c6, attacking the bishop. If he takes on e5, I simply take back. And yeah, bishop is hanging, so he cannot take the pawn on e5. He went back with the bishop, now queen c7, protecting the pawn on e5 and at the same time stopping rook a7. Rook e1, knight g6, pretty standard. Now bishop f1, bishop b7. So my issue here was that I actually preferred to put the bishop on d7 or on e6, but if I do something like this, let's say bishop d7, then I was a bit annoyed by queen a4, when white has full control of the a-file, and yeah, I did not really like this so much. If c5, there's always either bishop b5 or also I thought queen a7 is smart here, and now queen a6 only. And yeah, white has control of the a-file, so I wasn't really happy about this position. So I went bishop b7 just to prepare rook a8 on the next move. Now b4, rook a8, queen c2, I thought this is all pretty logical. Rook e8, rook d1 now. So white kind of gives up the fight for the a-file, but focuses on the d-file, and after a possible d takes e5, d takes e5, knight c4, he's threatening to jump in with the knight to d6. Here I already spent, again, a bit too much time. I went h6, which is a logical move, but I should have went bishop c8 right away, which I played only after h6, h3. But this inclusion actually favors white here, because after bishop c8 right away, then I have some ideas with bishop g4 sometimes. So yeah, this could have been smarter. Also, what I thought about was to push c5, but here I wasn't sure about this structure here. When my bishop is pretty passive, white has ideas with knight c4. When the pawn on d6 is always a bit weak. Also, bishop b5 right away was a bit annoying for me. So I did not want to go for this c5 push. I also thought about bishop a6, which probably maybe a bit more solid of a plan, just to exchange these bishops. If white takes, then I will play rook a8, possibly rook a2. So maybe bishop a6, again, a more solid approach. But I thought if I keep these bishops on the board, I might have some ideas to keep the game going and possibly try to play for a win. I went h6, point being simply that whenever white goes bishop c4, he has some ideas with knight g5, hitting the pawn on f7, so I just went h6 to stop this for all. h3, and now I went bishop c8, which according to the computer is a good move. But what I totally missed was that after knight c4, I actually intended to go bishop e6. When I only saw d takes e5, d takes e5, knight d6, when after rook d8, I felt like I should be totally fine. Now the bishop on e6 is better placed. But like a few seconds before playing bishop e6, I realized that white has knight takes d6, when I think that I'm already basically losing here. Let's see what the engine says, but yeah. Already much better for white, because queen takes d6 now, only d takes e5, and white simply won a pawn. So I totally forgot about this idea with knight takes d6, and I was lucky that my position was still solid enough that I have this idea with rook e6 to have knight takes d6, rook takes d6 now, when I'm simply a piece up, because now my queen is not hanging on d6. And I can simply move the knight and I'm a piece up. So yeah, here I was a bit lucky that I still had this resource with rook e6. Also rook d8 doesn't work now with the bishop on c8, because white can take on d8 and then wins a pawn on e5. And after rook e6, now he went knight d3, and here I went for the repetition, since I felt like I didn't see this idea with knight takes d6, so I felt like the game is kind of going into the wrong direction, and I kind of hit the emergency brakes here. Let me just see if there was a better way here. Engine says b5 also, but here white has this idea with c4. I also thought about knight b3 and knight a5 could be an idea for white, so I did not really want to play this b5 move. Bishop c8 is funnily enough actually the best move, yeah, and simply this here. Computer says that white could play on with takes, and rook a1, but it's also nothing much. Yeah, I can just take and go rook e8 when I shouldn't be in any trouble here. Let me just check. I think bishop c8 was, yeah, maybe h6, yeah. Bishop c8 right away would have been the way. And that's what I mentioned. I have now knight c4, here I have bishop g4 with this annoying pin here for white. So if h3 now, again, even here, now bishop e6, I was a bit afraid of some knight g5 ideas. But maybe now bishop d7, I think this would have been smarter. And if now knight c4, here I can probably take on d4, and I always have these ideas with d5. Here d5, and I'm comfortably equalizing. Another thing which I thought about after rook d1, because I was already panicking, yeah, I did not, I mean in this position after knight c4, I was already panicking because bishop e6, what I originally intended, didn't work. So I also thought about e takes d4, but here it's actually not a bad move. But what didn't I like? I think it was knight takes d4, which was, no, it was rook takes d4, and if d5, e5, I felt is a bit unpleasant, but the engine is not really impressed. I felt like this position is dangerous for me, but the computer just says that this is fine for me, king g7, and yeah, this from a human standpoint looks a bit strange because I have these doubled pawns, but my king is also kind of safe with the knight on g6, so this was my problem here. Also c takes d4 was not very aspiring for me because I wanted to play d5, but again here I also saw this idea with e5 when this is probably a better version for white. Here rook e1, and now white has all kind of ideas, rook e8 check for example, or bishop c4 right away. Looks a bit unpleasant for me. So yeah, that's why I did not go for the cd4, but just went rook e6 instead. So yeah, I guess that, yeah, the c5, let me see what the engine says. Yeah, this position is a bit better for white as well. So it's not so easy actually. Yeah, maybe bishop a6 is more of a solid approach, but also here white has a very safe position. So it's just very hard to play this position for a win, I think. Maybe bishop c8, but after h3, yeah, it's also not easy. Bishop d7, and yeah, maybe I should have played something like this. Yeah, but yeah, what to do? My opponent played solid, and there were not many chances for me. So yeah, but I'm happy that the team is winning. Let's just have a look again. Yeah, Badetsky should be easily winning, and Dominic's game will also end in a draw, as it seems. So yeah, 2.5 will be a good result overall. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's recap, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you did, and other than that, I will just see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching.